Most of us are aware of the January 12, 2010 earthquakes in Haiti, which killed over 200,000 people and left far more injured and homeless. Most of us are also aware of the more recent earthquake in Chile. As I'm recording this audio, the death toll is currently close to 1,000 and rising. What many news sources are not explaining is tectonic plates and how they relate to these disasters. Tectonic plates are gargantuan slabs of rock up to 200 kilometers thick, which comprise the surface of the Earth. In super slow motion, by human standards, they slide and bump around the surface of the Earth, compelled by convection currents of molten rock far below. Their motions change not only the map of the Earth over millions of years, but the topography, creating volcanic island chains like Hawaii, mountain ranges like the Himalayas, and even supercontinents that coalesce, split, and rejoin elsewhere. Notice that it's not necessarily the continents which show us the plate boundaries. Often the edges of a plate are under vast amounts of water in oceans. The Nazca Plate to the west of Chile is an example of a plate with all of its borders underwater. It's subducting under the South American Plate. Haiti is on the Caribbean Plate, north of the South American Plate. These plates border each other for hundreds of miles, and the movements of one can affect the movements of others, causing earthquakes and other natural results, like tsunamis. A tsunami is a wave caused when a large amount of water is displaced, as in when tectonic plates shift. These waves travel for miles, gaining height as they approach shallower seas and land masses. When we understand the interrelatedness of these plates and the bodies of water near them, it's easier to understand how an earthquake in Haiti might be related to a tsunami headed for Hawaii. To us, these resulting events can seem random if we don't comprehend the scale of distance, force, and time involved. I haven't heard an official word on exactly how the movement of the Caribbean Plate affected the South American Plate, or vice versa. Most news networks are skirting the causes of these disasters, but it's great when they give a broader context of what's going on. For more information on plate tectonics, check out these sites and videos. It's natural for tectonic plates to interact. They're touching. But who's willing to bet against me that we're about to be flooded with ignorant, fear-mongering, manipulative, moralizing judgments from religious fundamentalists everywhere, supposedly inspired by their supernatural entity? It's going to be a verbal tsunami of apocalyptic gushing, just like we hear after every single natural or man-made disaster. As a pastor friend of mine wrote the day of Chile's earthquake, "Beware. Today or tomorrow, on TV or maybe even in church, you will hear the fearmongers and those who claim to have an inside track on information from God claim that those 2 earthquakes within 6 weeks mean God is warning us about..." fill in their blank. They will not explain the Earth's plate tectonics to you because those scientific things just aren't sexy at all. Nor do they cause quite such a rewarding frenzy among followers. Have you heard it yet? Let me guess. Some religious leaders will say that a god or gods or whatever supernatural power they believe in is angry about voodoo, or Catholicism, or idolatry, or homosexuality, or ecology, or the separation of church and state, or capitalism, or whatever is their pet sin project of the month. This is a good time to be skeptical of the motives of these speakers. After they make these statements, do they ask for more money? More political power? More missionaries? More converts? Do they try to make others afraid of judgment and ostracism if they don't conform to a particular worldview? Do they try to make others afraid of pain, of damnation, which is just an inflated, unsubstantiated fairy tale version of ostracism and pain? It's also a good time to be skeptical about religious leaders' education. I don't just mean a 4 to 8 year degree from something like a Bible college or Quran school. I mean their general knowledge of human and natural history and eschatology. Have you been hearing about the end times? Perhaps the religionist du jour is talking about signs from earth or heaven that something big is about to happen, a revolution of supernatural proportions which is going to establish a new world order. Of course, The details of the New World Order are suspiciously politically and socially similar to the speaker's current views, almost as if the speaker has the red phone from God right on his or her desk. Just remember how many end times predictions have been made and failed since 1 AD. And that's just in modern times. For more hilarious information about eschatology, check out The Pocket Guide to the Apocalypse by Jason Boyette. You won't be so worried about being left behind after reading it. But perhaps the fear-mongering works, just a little bit, on you. Maybe you're a theist who believes in some version of hell or apocalypse, or one who believes in a God who's willing to kill people to make a point. Perhaps you're wondering if you or some of your loved ones are next. Perhaps you're afraid of the kind of end times world in which people don't know how to behave, endangering not only their physical lives, but their status after death. I'd like to take this opportunity to point out that the Golden Rule is not unique to any religion or social order, and it's a pretty good guideline of how to behave. So if you want to make a difference in the world, or even just for your own supposedly immortal soul, don't be so selfish about your salvation, and don't obsess about others. Reach out and offer that cup of water Jesus talked about. Visit the dying and the sick. If Jesus is your main guy, or even if you just think of him as a prophet, remember what he's reported to have said about the end times. No one can predict when it will be. The Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. No one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. So, by biblical standards, it's for sure that no religious leader has any clue when the end times might be. Even if you're worried about the signs listed in Matthew 24, imposter messiahs, wars and rumors of wars, nation rising against nation, famines and earthquakes in various places. Think about this. When has there not been a time in human history accompanied by earthquakes, famine, and war? And now that we have a global news network, you're going to be made aware of more of these events than people just a generation ago were. It just shows how provincial the gospel writers were. They only considered local signs to be warning signs. And if you're thinking David Koresh is a good example of messianic claims being a new phenomenon, guess again. Jesus also made it clear that you won't have to guess when the end times are. It will be obvious. So you won't need a religious leader to convince you of the end times, or to enumerate signs you might have missed. You won't need Rapture pet care insurance, or whatever someone is peddling to you. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. All the nations of the earth will know. At least, that's according to the same Bible that self-appointed spokesmen for God purportedly read. Basically, according to history, you won't recognize signs of impending ending. And according to the New Testament writers, if and when the time comes, it will be obvious. So what good does worrying do you? According to words ascribed to Jesus, nothing. Don't let religious leaders worry you. Remember, when people start spouting their opinions about the supernatural causes of any event, that it's better to look for natural causes. When humans diligently search for and discover natural causes, we can better prepare for and even predict similar events of the future. Sometimes, in the case of diseases, we can functionally obliterate the pathogens or genetic maladies that cause them. If you're truly concerned about the suffering of others, don't just focus on their afterlives. Help provide for their security here and now by supporting real scientific progress, figuring out what causes natural disasters, diseases, and other problems humans face, and support the humanitarian establishments that provide for those who are suffering. Studying natural causes trumps trying to figure out the random and whimsical acts of supernatural entities, which are seemingly impossible to predict. Notice, there haven't been any credible predictions of specific tragic events before they happen, with details like when and where the tragedy will occur, or why, and who will die and who will be spared. If a god's wrath toward certain human frailties or actions were strongly correlated with any particular disaster, we'd be able to predict where and when the next disaster would be, even better than meteorologists can predict how soon the next cold front will get to you. For example, if a supernatural entity hated country music above all else, Nashville, Tennessee would be in impending danger of destruction in 3, 2, 1.